How familiar are you with dead internet theory? You've probably heard it thrown around a bit, but in case you're not aware, let me give you a quick definition. According to Wikipedia, the dead internet theory is an online conspiracy theory that asserts that, due to a coordinated and intentional effort, the internet now consists mainly of bot activity and automatically generated content, manipulated by algorithmic curations to control the population and minimize organic human activity. Proponents of the theory believe that these social bots were created intentionally to help manipulate algorithms and boost search results in order to manipulate consumers. I don't know if I can really say that's true or not, but I do feel like it has been getting really relevant in my life lately. I find myself scrolling through social media, mostly Instagram, and I feel like I rarely ever get content that's actually from the people that I follow. Now it's mostly just for scrolling through reels and sharing them. It's for viewing hours and hours of algorithmically curated content to keep me engaged, giving me tiny hits of dopamine and wasting my time while Meta claims a bunch of ad revenue from it. I used to give it a pass, saying social media is good because it helps me stay connected with my friends and other people. And while that might have been true at one point, I really don't think it is anymore. Every passing day, social media becomes less social and more so just media. And I don't know about you, but this is something that I feel really strongly about, so I went looking for something else. Something that could bring social media back to truly being about connecting with others, something that doesn't use my data for monetary gain or control the content that I see, and puts the power back into my hands. And that's where I found the Fediverse. The Federated Universe, or the Fediverse for short, is a collection of different social media platforms and servers that interact with each other over a protocol called Activitypub. I know that that might sound a little bit technical or confusing. I'm going to try and do my best to make it a little bit simpler and easier to understand. Let's say that, for example, you are an Instagram user. This means, in our metaphor that we're going to be doing, that you are going over to a house that is called Instagram, or a building, I guess. And it's owned and operated by Meta, and they're hosting a big giant party where there's millions of other people there using their platform and hanging out. You're all just having this awesome party, chatting, talking, and having a good time. But then let's say, for example, that somebody lets you know about a big party going on over on Twitter, which is, of course, a house or building owned by Elon Musk. You decide that you want to take a look at this party going on Twitter, but you take a step outside of the Instagram house and realize that most of the things around you are completely empty, outside of maybe a Threads building and a Facebook building. But that's pretty much it. This is what we like to call centralized social media. It basically means that out of all of the people at this party, there's one person, or in this case, a company, with Meta being in control. They get to decide all of the rules, they get to decide what can be posted and who and what you interact with. It also means that you can't interact with any other platforms, really. For example, you can't, as an Instagram user, interact with anybody on Twitter. But sometimes you might be able to interact with some people on Threads and Facebook, but that's because they all just live in this one little Meta neighborhood. But what if social media worked a little bit differently? What if it gave you a little bit more control of your privacy and your data, and you could interact with people across different platforms regardless of the house that you choose to hang your hat in? Decentralized social media is like if, instead of going to a house party, you went to a giant city-wide party where everybody in the city is in on it. It's comprised of different districts and houses and buildings within those districts, and everything is interconnected and working towards the same goal of having this awesome party. And this is how the Fediverse works. So we're going to imagine that the Fediverse is this city where this giant citywide party is happening. The different districts are going to be our different platforms, and the buildings and houses within those districts are going to be what we like to call servers or instances. Different platforms across the Fediverse are pretty much exactly what they sound like. It's like the difference between Facebook and Twitter. They're both social media, but they're two different platforms that serve two very different purposes. One of the primary benefits of the Fediverse is that it offers you a bunch of these different platforms that serve all these different purposes while kind of being one platform in itself. You might have even already heard of some of these platforms and not even known that they were on the Fediverse. For example, Mastodon. At its core, Mastodon is pretty simple. It's a microblogging platform and basically an alternative to Twitter, but on the Fediverse. They pride themselves in being decentralized, free of ads and algorithms, open source, and independent. There are a few other platforms that try to do the exact same thing, but Mastodon is itself probably the most popular, and maybe even the most popular platform across the Fediverse as a whole. On Mastodon, users can make posts, they can add polls to their posts, they can upload a bunch of different file types, including images, video, and audio files. They can add descriptions to these files for accessibility purposes, and even add content warnings, or even add custom emoji if you want to. They pride themselves in being a very good place for expression and customizing your experience. Mastodon is one of these districts in the Fediverse city. Just a second ago, I mentioned that Mastodon prides itself in being open source, meaning that the code that makes it work is publicly available. Anybody that wants to can go take a look at it, see how it works, download it, change it, use it for themselves in any way that they want. What this ends up meaning for Mastodon and most other platforms on the Fediverse is that they are not hosted in one specific website. You don't go to mastodon.com and interact with the entirety of Mastodon. There's actually almost 9,000 of them operated by a bunch of different people. These different websites are our servers or instances, or as we were calling them in the metaphor, the houses and buildings. Mastodon and the larger Fediverse as a whole are hosted entirely across these different servers and instances. But the coolest part is that they all interact with each other seamlessly. So when you go to Mastodon's website, joinmastodon.org, they recommend signing up on their home server, which is called mastodon.social. But they don't limit you to just that one and suggest a bunch of other ones as well. You can join mast.to or mastodon.world. There's one called sunny.garden and even one called wehavecookies.social, which I think is Cookie Monster themed, like the Sesame Street character. Many of these servers are just for general use, but some of them have more special and specific purposes. The Sunny Garden one that I mentioned before is made specifically for creators, whether you're a photographer or a singer-songwriter. Maybe you like painting. Hey, stop that. Hey, get off of the chair. That's not for you. It's maintained by a couple people in Canada, and it has just about 500 users. Every server is run and maintained by different people independently of one another. Some of them are maintained by small nonprofit organizations, some of them are maintained by small teams, or even just individual people running it in their bedroom just for fun. Whoever is running and maintaining it is ultimately who is in charge of deciding what kind of content is allowed, what the rules are, and how those rules are enforced. They can be as strict or as lenient as they would like because they are the ones that run the server. It's theirs. If you don't like what they're doing, then you don't have to sign up on their server. You can go to any other server in the world, or if you want to, you can even just run your own. It's a little bit hard to do if you're not super technically literate, but many people do it. They love to do that because it gives them the ultimate control and ownership of their data and privacy. If that sounds like something that you want to do, then you should go for it. Regardless of what server you end up on when you're trying to sign up for Mastodon, you can still interact with every other Mastodon server that's out there, as long as they are federated with. And federation is what this interaction between servers is called. That's the federated part of the federated universe. Mastodon has so far been the only platform that we've really covered, but there are many more. It is far from the only platform, and you'll become familiar with and might even show some interest in some other ones as you grow and learn and explore more across the Fediverse. And everything that I've shared about the open source nature, the different servers, instances, that's all true for all of these platforms as well. Miski and Pleroma do the same thing as Mastodon. They are just for microblogging. They're alternatives to Twitter pretty much. They just do it in a little bit of a different way. PyFed, Kabin, and Lemmy are all link aggregators and forum softwares very similar to what Reddit does. And Write Freely and Plume are both for macro blogging. They're very similar to Blogspot. PixelFed is for photo sharing, very similar to Instagram. Friendica is a lot like Facebook. And PeerTube is a Fediverse alternative to YouTube. You can find my PeerTube channel in the description below. I just upload the same videos that I upload here. And I also forgot to mention Bookworm, which is a Goodreads alternative, but on the Fediverse. It's actually more popular and more used than I thought it would be. You can add me on Bookworm if you would like below as well. I'll just have all of my Fediverse platforms linked down there so that you can follow me if you would want to, if you would like to. Yeah. And that's just a couple of the more popular and widely used and active known about platforms. There are so many that do so many different things, and if you have the knowledge and you want to, you can even just make your own. People do that all the time. There's always new platforms coming out to do new different things. And while all platforms can federate with each other internally, a majority of platforms can also federate with each other to different platforms, meaning that you can follow somebody, you can like, comment, and share posts from other platforms completely outside of your own. But that's not always perfect. For example, PixelFed is for sharing photos, so you can follow somebody on Mastodon from your PixelFed account, and every time they make a post with a photo attached, it will show up and just look like it was natively posted through PixelFed. But every PixelFed post requires there to be a photo attached, and not every Mastodon post will have a photo attached because it's for microblogging. Photos are not the main focus like they are on PixelFed. So those ones just won't show up. They don't have any kind of error or anything. They just straight up aren't there. So now we're going to talk about Activitypub, which is the protocol that I mentioned in the intro to this video. In the Fediverse city, Activitypub is the roads, streets, and sidewalks that connect everything together. It is the language that every platform and every server and instance use to speak to each other. I think that it kind of helps to imagine it in the same way that email works, for example. Regardless if you have an email from gmail.com, icloud.com, outlook.com, or wherever your email might be hosted, you can still contact every other email address because they all speak the same language. They all use the same protocol to send those messages to each other. Activitypub works in much the same way. It's just for social media instead of email communication. Activitypub really is the backbone of the Fediverse. Without it, it would never exist. And for example, Mastodon, the developers of that probably would have never made their platform. And if they did, it would have to be much more centralized and locked in like every other social media is. Without Activitypub, if you wanted to communicate between platforms, you'd have to dig some tunnels or hop some fences or some other sketchy method of communication like that. But because of it, we have this easy way to have decentralized media and communication between the different platforms. So now that we have a better understanding of the Fediverse, what it is, how it works, we're going to talk about some of the primary benefits and why you specifically should care about it. I wonder how well you can hear my cat right now. She's being kind of crazy. Earlier, we talked a little bit about the concept of centralization. I already kind of made a case for that. For example, Twitter is owned by Elon Musk, and I really hope that I don't have to explain the negative impact that that is having on that platform. The Fediverse as a whole is owned by no one, but also everyone at the same time. It's a very community-focused and driven thing. For example, that Sunny.Garden platform earlier that we talked about for Mastodon is owned and operated by 5 people in Canada. There's a Mastodon server called masto.nyc, which is owned and operated by the 5 Bureau Fedi Project, a nonprofit corporation based in New York City. And again, these people own and operate these servers. They're in charge of making the rules and deciding how it's run. And like I said earlier, if you don't find one that you like, then you can just make your own because it's owned by nobody but also everybody. You could be an owner. Current social media is also largely driven by advertisements and algorithms. In the digital age that we live in, there's a common saying that says, if you're not paying for the product, then you are the product. And in the traditional social media that we have today, that is very true. That's 100% true. Most social media is provided as a free service for the user, which seems like a great thing on the surface, but it comes at the cost of being on a platform that is just full of mindless scrolling because of all of these algorithms that are designed to get you completely hooked and addicted so that you'll spend hours and hours a day on their platform so that they can give you as many advertisements as possible and just make a whole bunch of money off of you. You might not even realize it because there is a certain point where you just kind of become numb to it, but you see hundreds and hundreds of ads a day, especially on social media. And every time that you see one of those, that is the platform that you are on making a bunch of money off of you. The Fediverse is almost the exact opposite of this model. Regardless of where you end up on the Fediverse, on every platform, you will never ever see ads or algorithms, even on the biggest ones like Mastodon. Every platform gives you the power to decide what you want to see in your feed. There are no algorithms. It just shows you stuff that you follow. I just wanted to quickly pop in and make a quick edit to myself. There are definitely algorithms across the Fediverse. I more so just meant the aggressive and advertising focused ones that you find on traditional social media are not present. Those aren't there. On most platforms, there's also usually an option to just see the newest posts as they're made live so that you can discover new content if that's what you wish to do. You'll never get any data collected on you for the purpose of being sold to advertisers, and you will never get advertisements. The Fediverse is not about making money. It's really just about being social again, interacting with people. Because of the decentralization and the lack of data collection, it's also a great place if you're somebody that really cares about your digital privacy. That's how I ended up there. There's absolutely no gigantic corporations building a profile of you for advertising purposes, and the people that are in charge of collecting and managing the very little data that they do have on you are usually very transparent about how they use it. And if you find yourself uncomfortable with any data being collected on you, then you can always just host your own instance so that you can be the ultimate one that is in control. That isn't to say that the Fediverse is without its challenges. The protocol that it's all built off of, Activitypub, was only introduced in 2018, which is fairly recent, so we're still trying to really figure things out, and we're very much in the early adopter stage. Things are always changing and improving, and many of the biggest platforms are still getting big feature-dropping updates every now and then. And the lack of algorithms really means that it can be hard to find people sometimes. And given the current state of how early things are, admittedly, most users are tech enthusiasts. That, combined with just the significantly smaller user base when compared to traditional social media, can be quite underwhelming and even confusing to some new users. And like we already kind of talked about, federation between some platforms is not perfect. When you're following between two different microblogging platforms like Mastodon or Pleroma, it'll work pretty seamlessly. You won't even be able to tell that it came from anywhere else. But for example, we already talked about Mastodon and PixelFed being a bit of a troublesome thing. Another example is that Bookworm supports following across pretty much every single platform that's out there, but you won't really see any activity from anybody since you're not usually posting book reviews on any other platform. And there's plenty more cases of things just not quite translating as intended, but it's not that widespread of an issue. The community-driven aspect of things can also oftentimes be a double-edged sword because most things are just run by small teams or hobbyists even, and there's no gigantic mega corporation making sure that everything goes smoothly. Your favorite instance might sometimes struggle with outages from high traffic or lengthy bits of downtime because of maintenance, or there's transitions between hardware or anything like that. Sometimes your favorite instance might even just disappear because the people behind it simply can't maintain it anymore. And that's definitely going to be a bit frustrating if you're not used to something like that coming from a very traditional platform where everything just works pretty seamlessly and smoothly without any hitches. But many of these issues have pretty simple solutions that I'd argue can be even better than the things that you'll find on a traditional platform. If you want to get to know people outside of just tech enthusiasts, then many people create free and public user directories. You can think of them like the phone book for the Fediverse city. For example, the website Fediverse.info has a user directory that you can use to browse people by a bunch of different categories. You can browse accounts that talk about things like music, tech, art, photography, and a bunch of other things. And you can even submit your own profile so that it can be indexed for other people to find you easier. Or there's a section on the website fedidevs.com where users can create their own starter packs, which is just a group of users that all talk about one specific thing that they think are worth following. For example, Corey A. Smith created a starter pack called Funny People, containing accounts that post funny things on the Fediverse. It even gives you a button to just easily follow all the people in the starter pack. If you ever go to do some browsing and find that your favorite instance is down, the magic thing about the Fediverse is that you can just go to a different instance for a little bit. You can have an alt account set up or just browse anonymously without signing in. And I highly doubt that every instance will ever simultaneously shut down at the same time. And if that does happen, then I think that there's a much bigger problem going on that we should all be worried about. Most instances will also let you donate to them, which I would highly recommend doing if you find yourself spending a lot of time and enjoying your time there. Just a reminder that nobody is going to be making any money by running this. They just do it for the service and because they like doing it. So that's a great way to support it so that it can stay up a little bit longer, or just if you want to show your appreciation. These, of course, aren't perfect solutions, and I didn't even suggest a solution to every single problem that I proposed, but that's just kind of the trade-off that you have to take when you're going to a community-driven, ad-free platform like this. I, for one, am fully willing to accept these struggles and limitations, but I definitely understand if that's not something that you're really trying to do right now, if that's not something that you think you're into. It's definitely not for everybody in its current stage. Regardless of the present issues, I definitely think that the Fediverse is a very fun and exciting place to be right now. If you have any desire to check it out, you totally should. It's not even that hard to do. Some social media platforms, like Facebook specifically, are very aggressive. They will do everything that they can to lock you into your profile for life. From the moment that you sign up to the moment you die, they want it to be a part of your life. And I promise, all that is holy, that the Fediverse is not like this. It's not nearly as big a commitment. It's really easy to sign up, and it's just as easy to delete your account if you choose that you want to do that. All you need to do to get started is just pick a platform that you think looks interesting and then find an instance to make your account at. You might want to do some research for this. I will leave some resources below to find different platforms that you might be interested in, and then directories to find different instances that will better suit your needs. And then all you have to do is sign up. Many platforms will let you sign up and log in right away. Others will have admins manually review every sign up request so that they can make sure you're not a bot or somebody suspicious. Depending on how big and active this is, this can take a few hours or up to a few days. That's definitely something to take into consideration. I think most instances that do this are very clear about it during the sign up process if that's something that you'd rather avoid. And then after that, all you have to do is sign in and you're ready to just browse and do some exploring across the Fediverse. If you spend some time there and find a different instance where you think that you will be happier, most platforms provide a pretty easy way for you to migrate your account over there so that you're not losing your followers or your posts or anything like that. And it'll show other people that your old account is being pointed somewhere else so that they can find you in the place where you are currently active. If you find yourself worried that you are missing out due to mistranslation or defederation between platforms, then I'd suggest just signing up for more than one platform. But it's important to remember that regardless of where you sign up, you are usually still able to interact with thousands of other people across the whole Fediverse. And with all that being said, I hope that I've done a good job to make a good case for the Fediverse and why you should care about it. It's something that I think is really important. I think that it's going to be really big in the future. It's definitely something that I believe is the next age of social media currently being pioneered in, and it's super fun to be a part of, and I think that everybody should at least check it out. There's so much to learn about and explore, and you can take it as deep or stay as shallow with it as you want. I really like that it's redefining social media as what it used to be, more about connecting with other people across the internet rather than mindlessly brain scrolling through a bunch of AI slop garbage on Facebook or watching billion different reels in one sitting. I really love that it's free from corporate control and Elon Musk fueling all of his personal AI projects off of my posts. I love that it's open source and controlled by the community rather than any one corporation or person. And if breaking free of that sounds interesting at all to you, then I'd highly recommend giving the Fediverse a try at the very least. It's definitely a little bit different. It might seem a little weird at first, but I promise that once you're there for a bit, you get a little comfier. I don't think you'll ever want to go back. It's a much better, healthier alternative. Hey, it's me, Bryce. Thanks for watching my video. I appreciate it a lot. I spent a lot of hard time and effort on this, writing and rewriting, learning an animation language, and ultimately just deciding to record my face instead. A lot of work went into this, and I appreciate the support a lot. If you're here from my last video, then thanks for watching all the way through to the end of this one. I know it's pretty different. It's not a movie analysis or anything like that, but I thought that it was something important. It was something that I wanted to talk about, so I went ahead and did it. I do plan on doing more media analysis stuff in the future. I'm going to do Dracula and Nosferatu soon. I'm really looking forward to that one. I think it'll be a lot of fun. And yeah, you can check out my NeoCities site. I'm going to be uploading all of my scripts there for free, as well as just updates on projects and stuff as I'm working on them. You can check in every now and then, see how my production of the next video is going. I'm going to be trying to update it pretty frequently. And yeah. Thanks so much. I'll see you in the next one.